the subcommittee, Mr. Griffith, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to build on some of the prior testimony and questions about NAATP's updated code of ethics. Mr. Cartwright, as you indicated to Chairman Walden, there are about 300 treatment providers that are members of NAATP who advertise on your website. So my question is, if I go to your website later today, am I just going to find your traditional straight advertising, Treatment Center A, Treatment Center B, Treatment Center C, and it just rotates based on, you know, who's up next, like the line of cabs? Is that how your system works?
No, sir, it doesn't. It operates very similar to YP.com, yellowpages.com. If you would go into a particular area in the state of Colorado and you went into Denver, it would only list operators within that state, and then there would, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, I got it. And so the question is, it helps focus where you're going, is what you're saying. But my question is it just advertising? Are you telling us that you don't get paid anything for a straight referral or for a head count?
That is correct. It's straight advertising.
That's never been the case?
It's never been the case.
And so when your people do, when these ads are up there, your folks don't actually talk to the people and it just focuses them in. And the next question is, what sort of vetting, if any, does AAC do before letting another treatment provider advertise on your website?
They would need to be on the SAMHSA.gov. We really take that website very seriously. That we're assuming the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration is, in their listing, is vetting folks. They have to be licensed, Joint Commission accredited, or CARF accredited.
Okay. Is AAC itself a member of the NAATP?
We're a member of a different organization, a National Association of Behavioral Health Care. It's been around for about 85 years. A lot of the larger companies join that. You got to remember, most of NAATP is smaller not-for-profit organizations. We feel like that with HCA and Acadia and UHS, some of the larger organizations, that's meeting our needs more appropriately.
Prior to the new ethics standards that we've talked about today, weren't you all a member of the NAATP?
I go back 2 decades being a member of NAATP, back to when I was on their board of directors. So again, back when I was a not-for-profit agency, I thought that was a very effective organization. I could go back and look at the exact date that we're no longer members, but you're right. Marv asked us not to be members based on their new marketing practices or ethical guidelines that he has. I really don't think he fully understood, though, our websites. I think he got confused with some other websites that are absolutely websites that are non-transparent. And we're supportive of new marketing standards. In the state of Tennessee, we just passed the toughest law on marketing standards, and we would recommend, just like Mr. Mishik did, let's take that national. Let's do that on a national basis and take a law like Tennessee or take a law like Florida. They've been working very, very hard in the state of Florida to get this right. We would support that. We actually were extreme supporters of that measure that was passed in the state of Florida, California, and Tennessee. If you want to talk to some of the legislatures in those states about our activity, I'm happy to put you in touch with them.
Mr. Ventral, you want to make any comment on that?
I must be demonstrative in my demeanor that suggests to the members of the committee to call on me when I haven't raised my hand, but thank you.
Was there merely a misunderstanding? That's what I'm trying to find out.
Well,
Did you not understand what he's doing?
You know, Mr. Cartwright just suggested that I might not fully have understood what American Addiction Centers was doing. What happened was, at the expiration of American Addiction Center's term, which was December 31st of 2017, we reviewed its practices and determined that it wasn't in sufficient compliance with our ethical rules. The primary reason for that was the website issue, the inadequately branded or unbranded website, so we did not invite them back.
Okay.
So
the primary issue was that you couldn't tell, if you just went there, you couldn't tell whether it was one of theirs or somebody else's or what treatment center was being referred and who was telling folks to do that. Is that accurate?
Yes, we believed it wasn't adequately transparent.
All right, I've got to move on to some other questions. Mr. Cartwright, I'm going to switch gears on you. AAC operates several websites that might appear to consumers, and I guess it's in the same vein, but it might appear to consumers to be unaffiliated third-party resources such as drugabuse.com, rehabs.com, projectno.com. Mr. Niznik, your company does the same thing through its operation of addictionrecoverynow.net and findingtreatmentnow.com. Unless consumers click on the information buttons next to the 1-800 numbers advertised on the website, isn't it true they may not realize who is behind the websites or answering their calls? First, Mr. Cartwright, yes or no? And then Mr. Niznik, isn't it true they may not realize who's behind the websites or answering their calls?
I think it's very clear on our websites that they know who they're calling.
Mr. Niznik?
I also believe it's pretty transparent on our sites who they're calling, and then more importantly, when they do call, they immediately know who they're talking to. So even if they've read a blog or content online, before as soon as they speak to someone, they know who they're dealing with.
And I see I'm over my time, but Mr. Ventrell earlier said pushing on the I doesn't work. I'm out of time. I apologize. I yield back.